Well, look, if somebody else in the town wanted to dig into it and decided that there was some problem in the past, I guess maybe, like I say, code enforcement could look into it. It's not a planning
Well, I'm
board.
saying if they had a variance to cover that coverage,
They might have.
if they did, they don't need one now, that's what I'm saying.
That's true too.
I think that this coverage actually, I mean, I couldn't swear to this, but before that was a convenience store, that was a truck repair and equipment, Joe Burke's equipment yard. And he used that whole site. It may not have all been paved, but it certainly was driven on and, and there was a little storage back there. So, in fact, that condition existed. It's my belief, I shouldn't say in fact, but my belief that that condition existed well before any site plan approval was required.
So it could be a legal non-conforming condition.
Okay, another issue that again was touched on at previous meeting is the issue of just identifying on the site plan the required off-street loading spaces, just so the board understood, and the site plan clearly represents where that is to occur on the site. As the board is aware, there's additional landscaping proposed both along the frontage and in the rear. I think the board discussed that at some length at the earlier site visit. I just want to be sure that the board understands and reacts to that as to whether it's acceptable or whether you're seeking any enhancements to what's being proposed for the landscaping additions. One item that I noticed just tonight coming in, just as an aside, it's not in the technical memorandum, but I noticed that the canopy lighting, which is on the underside of the canopy, is surface mounted, and it's bright as all can be. And I think that the board should, as any condition of approval, consider directing that be made recessed lighting so that you don't have that light spillage beyond the limits of the canopy or certainly the site boundary lines, so that it doesn't wash into the Route 9 corridor.
Okay.
And I had not noticed that till tonight because it's getting darker every day. So I happened to see it tonight.
We don't have an objection to that, but except that I would rather you say shielded lighting in case we could,
That would be
shield
fine.
it on the sides rather than have to recess it up. It would give us another option.
Yeah, I'm just trying to assure that there's no, currently the light is directed in all directions, and you really want that downward directed. And so
Right.
the shielding would work as well as recessing the lights. But at the end of the day, we want to be assured that excessive lighting does not extend beyond the property line.
Right.
We would accept that as a condition.
Relative to seeker, that's not yet been addressed. They've submitted revised AF documents with this latest submittal, just to be aware that you have them. So that's a matter to be addressed. The referrals were touched on previously, at least with respect to Putnam County Planning. That referral's been made. I believe you've also made referral to the Conservation Board. I have not seen a response there yet. And they are proposing some limited curbing improvements along the DOT right-of-way. And obviously a highway work permit will be needed for any work within the DOT corridor. And just as an aside, one note that I heard tonight on the discussion is the need to identify all project signage with respect to traffic controls. One-way signage on that southerly turn on the building.
Right.
So I'll make sure that also gets addressed. Thank you.
Okay. We did receive comments from Conservation.
We did? Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
There was no concerns.
Okay.
Okay. Does anybody have any issues based on what was discussed? I mean, to me, the landscaping and the other issues which I looked at, I had no issues personally with. So.
Can I?
Susan?
Okay. A couple of things, and a couple of things that I put in my memo. One thing I just want to make it clear: this is an amendment to an existing site plan, and it just should be clearly stated on the plan. And then on the plan as well, it should refer back to the existing site plan, the 1994 amended site plan. Another thing that is that I just want to make clear, things have changed on the site since that current site plan that's ruling over the site. Those are things that you should be looking at as well. The removal of those bollards that allow that first lane to be open, the changing of the pedestrian circulation, you should be looking at that and accepting that as part of the amended site plan. And if you don't want that to be how it is currently, you need to tell them, no, we don't want that lane opened because of a certain reason. And I'll now start talking about the reason why I'm a little concerned about the pedestrian circulation on the site. As I said last time, there is going to be increased and different pedestrian circulation on the site because of the new use that's being introduced. I could go through it in a little bit more detail, but the two things the two areas that I'm really concerned about, or the one full area that I'm concerned about, is going from the oil change area to the store, and then also going from the oil change area to the the property to the south. Those are places that somebody who has 15 minutes is going to use those paths. There's no demarcation on the pavement that gives pedestrians a safety zone. There's no, there could be extensive improvements made. They could be minimal improvements made, but it should be looked at, and you should think about that and see if you have an opinion on that. Another thing, the vehicle.
Are you talking sidewalks?
I'm not. I'd love it if they would do paving, and I think that that's what it really calls for. But that's something that you have to call for. It can be striping, like what they're showing right now is striping. At least that's giving the pedestrian some sense that this is my space, and it's telling the drivers this is the pedestrian space. So you better look out for pedestrians coming. I have an issue with how long that crossing is from the north corner of the building, the last protected place for a pedestrian to stand to cross to the parking area. That's 35 feet, with cars going in not really predictable manner all the time. I would like to see that a shorter distance if possible. I would like to see, and this is not something that can be that I could demand from anybody, but if you create a pedestrian area there, create a raised curb or even just a different paving that says this is pedestrian, put bollards around an area where you don't want cars to go into in order to make it a shorter crossing distance for pedestrians. These are things that can be done that aren't, it could be more expensive, it could be less expensive, but it should be addressed in some way. Being that this is in the Hamlet area, it should be the code and the comprehensive plan are looking towards this area to have a more comfortable pedestrian experience. So that might not be an onus you want to put on the applicant right now, but that is something that is in the grand vision of what this area can be. So I did want to state that as well. The next issue was that area between the vehicular entrance to the site from the south. I would recommend that you ask the applicant to look at what's approved for that entrance at the southern border of the site, which was just approved a couple of months ago for the amended site plan for the plaza, for Phillipstown Plaza, and just so they're informed about what's happening on the southern side of the line so they could address what should be happening on the northern side, which could be painted arrows on the ground, could be signage that says, look out for cars coming. I'm not sure what it is, but they should be aware of what's happening at that property line because there is that traffic going from one to the other.